Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Tuesday, the 23rd of January 2024. I'm Sean Aylmer. As always, we've got the 5 stories today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the S&P ASX 200 closed up 0.5% today to 7,515 points. Healthcare stocks led the way with CSL, ResMed, Ramsay Healthcare and Cochlear all up around 1%. Fisher & Paykel Healthcare jumped 2%. Financials and consumer staples also did well, while consumer discretionary companies underperformed. Diversified miner South32 regained some recent losses, rising 4.4%, while WiseTech Global jumped nearly 3%. The gold stocks didn't have a great day. Northern Star fell 2%, and the lithium stocks were mixed. Worst of the large caps was Xero, down 1.4%. A couple of interesting announcements out today. Student recruitment and English language testing company IDP Education's share price dropped more than 6% after Canada announced changes to its intake of international students, and Judo Bank's share price jumped 17% after it posted a 24% rise in profit for the first half on the back of strong lending growth, better profit margins and minimal write-offs. Story number 2, former Prime Minister Scott Morrison will leave Parliament at the end of February. Mr Morrison has held his seat of Cook in southern Sydney since 2007. He took the leadership from Malcolm Turnbull in 2018 and then defied the odds to win the 2019 election, something he described as a miracle. He was the first Prime Minister since John Howard to serve a full term in the job. Mr Morrison will leave to take up global advisory roles on defence and geopolitics, focused on the US and Indo-Pacific. The former Prime Minister also wants to spend more time with his family and be more active in his church community. Story number 3, Australia has identified the alleged cyber criminal behind last year's hack of Medibank and theft of data of almost 10 million customers. Russian Alexander Ermakov will be banned from travelling to Australia, and the government has announced financial sanctions that makes it an offence to provide assets to him or deal with his assets. Mr. Ermakov is alleged to be a member of the Russian ransom gang REVIL, that's R-E-V-I-L, which has been blamed for some of the biggest cyber attacks in the world, including the attack on the Colonial Pipeline in the US and meat processor JBS, which affected its operations in Australia, the US and Canada. Members of REVIL were arrested by Russian authorities a couple of years ago, although Mr. Ermakov was not among those who were detained. Apparently, he remains at large. Story number 4, business groups have backed a proposal to increase the number of weeks offered under the paid parental leave scheme. The federal government introduced legislation last year which would extend the scheme by 2 weeks each year from July 1 to ultimately reach 26 weeks in mid-2026, according to a report on AAP. The number of weeks reserved for each parent will increase to 4 weeks in a bid to encourage sharing of care and household responsibilities. Under the legislation, both parents would be able to take 4 weeks off at the same time from 2026. The Australian Industry Group and Australian Chamber of Commerce, key mid and small business peak bodies, say the legislation will help address skills shortages in addition to boosting labour force participation. But it also wants a statutory review 3 years after the proposed laws come into effect. And story number 5, Australia has backed the US and UK militaries in an additional round of strikes against the Iranian-backed Houthis in Yemen. In a joint statement with Australia, Britain, Bahrain, Canada and the Netherlands, the US Pentagon detailed the 8 new strikes, which are in response to the rebel group's continued attacks against international and commercial shipping, as well as naval vessels transiting the Red Sea. The statement says the strikes are intended to disrupt and degrade the capabilities that the Houthis use to threaten global trade and the lives of innocent mariners. The group of nations say the strikes aim to de-escalate tensions and restore stability in the Red Sea. That's it for the afternoon report for Tuesday, the 23rd of January, 2024. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, X and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.